Aloha, welcome to our presentation. And before I begin, I'd also like to extend my mahalos to the ADB for making it possible for us to be here. Special aloha to Mr. Bob Fishman, who has assisted us in assuring that we would be able to participate in this conference here. Again, I'd like to say welcome, okay? Aloha with a lot of feeling, okay? A new perspective. While we were here, we realized that people were very interested in what was the reinstated Hawaiian nation. And majority of the questions was basically, what are we doing here in an economic conference? The reinstated Hawaiian nation is a government that is emerging in the Pacific and has a right to be here. Our nation once existed, and because it was illegally overthrown, our right to that inherent sovereignty was not extinguished. And it was in 1993 that we were able to get support by the United States of America and Congress in reinstating our right to re-exist as a nation. What this document does is that it re-establishes a tie between the United States government and the once exiled Kingdom of Hawaii. It also acknowledges that it had violated international law when it overthrew our country. And it was through this apology that we today, as an Aboriginal people, have a right to reinstate our lawful government. No one really knew the impact of Public Law 103-150 as much as our illustrious Senator, Dan Inouye, does. Mr. Inouye has served in Congress, U.S. Congress, now for over 40 years. And he did a press release on December 13, 2000. And what he was sharing with everybody in the world was this: sovereignty is inherent in the people. Its existence does not depend on its recognition by another government. The reorganization of governments, which represent the various indigenous native peoples of the United States, does not require federal authorization. This process can proceed without the involvement of the federal government, and indeed, many have suggested that the process of reorganizing a government to represent the native Hawaiian people should proceed without the involvement of the United States. And you need to understand that our senator has been in Congress for over 40 years, and he has been involved with reinstating other countries. He has been involved in those discussions. Our senator certainly knows the importance of international public law. And it is because of this that he realizes that after the apology was made, it was really up to us, the people here in Hawaii, to do the right thing as far as reorganizing their government. What people need to understand is that our kingdom was well recognized throughout the world. We had international treaties with other countries. We had 5 treaties alone with the United States government. And this recognition does not extinguish if a nation is unlawfully removed. What happens is that another country assumes the powers, takes over its governmental decisions, and uses their resources for their own benefit. But the existence of the government itself remains intact under the spirit of international public law. What happens when the people of that country finally realize that they have this right to regain their government? They begin a process of bringing their government back out of exile. And it is in these international public laws and these authorities that you find other countries throughout the world have applied these applications. Reinstatement of a nation dates back hundreds of years. And just lately in the 1990s alone, there's been over 40 countries that have reinstated their governments and their nations. The beauty about us in Hawaii today is that we have a document known as U.S. Public Law 103-150, passed by the United States Congress, signed by the President of the United States, William Jefferson Clinton, the former president. But what we don't have, or what we did not have, was a representative, proper government. The reinstatement of the Hawaiian nation now has positioned itself to represent that government of which the United States had apologized in Public Law 103-150. So the key now is to understand, how do we fulfill these obligations? Reinstatement is about fulfilling perfect obligations owed to the Hawaiian nation, the inherent sovereignty, and the Hawaiian people. Again, on November 23rd, 1993, 100 years after the overthrow, our United States Congress and the President signed an apology. This is one portion of recognizing a nation. There's two parts to recognition of a nation. One is called implicit, implied, and explicit. And what that means is you need to get that in writing. What's unusual in our situation in Hawaii is that we have an explicit recognition, and that is the document of Public Law 103-150. What we did not have was the proper government to accept the apology prior to 1993. So, in order for this government to accept the responsibility of that apology, it had to appear. On March 13, 1999, the Aboriginal people of Hawaii reinstated their Hawaiian nation. And the inherent people of Hawaii exercised their inherent natural right and reinstated their Hawaiian nation at a convention with delegates from every district of the Kingdom of Hawaii. What happened on that day was that it had taken us 4 years to reorganize our government as it was described in our kingdom prior to the overthrow. Our kingdom was very well described in laws. We had a constitution, we had civil laws, we had penal laws, and it is within these laws that you will find the distinction of our government. And what happened on March 13, 1999, after 4 years of reorganizing our government and trying to have our people represented in our kingdom, we were successful. Now, after we reinstated our government, what has now surfaced is this: who is the lawful political authority of Hawaii? When you look at that, currently the United States government illegally occupies the Hawaiian Islands. They admitted that in Public Law 103-150. We have it in writing. The reinstated Hawaiian nation is the lawful authority, political authority in our Hawaiian Islands. The question is, obviously, what if the United States is still in control of Hawaii and the state of Hawaii conducts its business in Hawaii? How can we claim to be the lawful authority of Hawaii? Whenever a country returns back to its former status, what happens is international law describes it as a transition of governments. In 1999, there was another transition of governmental properties, and that was Panama Canal was returned back to the Panamanian nation, Panamanian government. Here in Hawaii, it took us 108 years to initiate this process. The question is, how does transition work? Obviously, it begins with education. It begins with dialogue. It begins by extending to other countries what your rights are. So what we were explaining to everybody in attendance at ADB is that this right has now been initiated, and we are in the process of manifesting this political authority. Obviously, again, if a country apologizes to another country, and that country does not exist, then it becomes the responsibility of that people to bring their government forward to begin the transition of powers. This is what the reinstatement of the Hawaiian nation is based upon. It's based upon international public law. One, a country cannot continue to maintain stolen properties. As long as the owner does not come to claim it, they can use the properties. Once the owners show up, that country now has to open up negotiations and dialogue with this re-emerging Hawaiian nation. And this is what we've been here to share with everybody in the ADB conference, that another nation is emerging in Hawaii. I think the most important paragraph in Public Law 103-150 is paragraph 29. And what paragraph 29 has done is this. It has basically shown everybody that our inherent sovereignty was never relinquished by its people or the monarchy. Neither was the national lands over to the United States. Now you got to realize this statement is very powerful. When you look at the statement, it's telling you that our sovereignty never gave the lands to the United States, which means that they do not own the national lands. They do not own the national lands is because they did not have the right to these properties. When you become a conquering nation, obviously you do as you please. But what happens when a conquering nation apologizes to that country that it conquered? You cannot extinguish a country. You can only utilize its resources, occupy its territories until the time arrives that the people that are Aboriginal people to that country now moves forward to reacquire what is lawfully theirs and reacquire their station among the family of nations. Again, let me reiterate to you that our Hawaiian kingdom existed as an independent sovereign nation, recognized by countries throughout the world, having treaties with these countries. So you could not extinguish our nation, but you could remove our government. And in 1893, what took place was there was a removal of our government. In 1999, on March 13, again, it was the indigenous people that reinstated the country. And it was done through Aboriginal rights from the Aboriginal people, along with indigenous people, assisting the process. Okay? This is the reason why we were able to convince these people here at the convention, organizing a conference, that we should be in this convention so that we can share with the rest of the world what is happening in Hawaii. As I mentioned to you earlier, what are the national lands? According to U.S. public law, it states that the national lands was never turned over legally to the United States. These are the national lands, all federal and U.S. properties. One of the most valuable U.S. federal properties is Pearl Harbor. Another valuable property is Kaneohe Marine Base, Schofield. These properties are all considered national lands. All state of Hawaii properties. You got to realize that when our government was overthrown, what was valuable was the land. This government had to expand their powers in the part of expanding their nation. They took another nation's wealth and used it for their advantages. Also included is all the 4 counties of the Hawaiian Islands. In reality, what you're seeing now is that the United States does not own the national lands, so does the state of Hawaii and the 4 counties within the Hawaiian Islands. So who does own the national lands? It is, what this all amounts to is that the reinstated Hawaiian government and nation is the proper landowners of all the national lands that were unlawfully ceded to the United States of America, the state of Hawaii and the 4 counties of the Hawaiian Islands. Throughout our conference, we believe that that has definitely hit home. It has been to our good fortune that having been in this conference, we were able to communicate with over 60 countries, informing them of what is transpiring here in Hawaii and why this reinstated nation has the support of the United States to begin this transition. And believe me, a lot of people were simply stunned as to what we were sharing throughout the conference, throughout these days. Some people ask us, well, what are we going to do? I think the first thing we should look at is, one, you can't keep stolen property. Okay? And if it does belong to our government, then obviously negotiations should be ongoing. And that is, all these years, they have been able to use our properties without paying fair compensation for it. We know that Pearl Harbor was probably the reason why they conspired to overthrow Hawaii. They recognized long ago, even before the overthrow, that Pearl Harbor was the key to their success in the Pacific. Economic success as well as military success. So when they finally took control of Pearl Harbor, what they've done is they've shown the world that this is a very valuable piece of property. So what they're realizing now is that if you don't own the land, and those that do own it come forward, we need to sit down and discuss fair lease agreements. That's a part of transition of governments. You identify who's the landowners, you begin to open up negotiations, and you do what is right. How can we talk to each other? At the ADB conference, one of our primary objectives was to get the message out to all the countries that there is a nation in Hawaii that is emerging, and they should take a close look at it. Prior to the overthrow, there were private landowners. There were private landowners here who existed. So how would we open up dialogue with private landowners? It's obvious, like any other country. If you're planning to utilize properties in another country, obviously you pay taxes. So these landowners will be simply told, you need to make a decision on who you will pay your property taxes to. Are you going to pay it to the de facto state of Hawaii, or are you going to begin making payment to the lawful government? What about existing and new business owners in Hawaii? You know, one of the reasons why we're here at the conference is to inform them that as a new nation emerging, obviously we will also acquire political powers to make decisions as to how business can be conducted here in our nation. And this is what we've shared with them. Like anything else, if you see a business opportunity, obviously you should take a good look at it if it'll benefit yourself or your nation. And how about the existing businesses? Same thing. They're going to have to make some decisions, you know, how they want to be able to be treated. What happens if you treat an owner with no respect? And that day arrives that the owner is finally given that authority or acquires that authority. These are the things that they will have to ask themselves. You know, some people ask me, well, Henry, what, we're going to be kicking out anybody? I doubt if we'll be kicking out anybody. That's not our intent. Our intent is, can we get the people in Hawaii to realize that there is a lawful owner? And they need to begin to look at this lawful owner with a very serious perspective. So economically, socially, we have a lot to offer. We have a lot to offer. So how will we look into Hawaii's future? Simple. It's called developing strategic alliances. Developing these alliances with other countries, other nations, with businesses. You know, this is where you begin. Hawaii has a lot to offer. I hear it all the time. Hawaii is the greatest aloha state in the world. They're going to show you the best hula dances, the best shows. And you know what happens? I look around and I tell myself, my God, it should be the Hawaiians who should be saying that to the world and not someone else. They also say to everybody, especially in this conference, I heard it many times in these speeches, oh, they got great aloha spirit. Jesus, where does this spirit come from? Certainly it comes from a society that developed it, that has now transferred it over to others in the world. And that's something they cannot deny. They cannot take that away from us. But we have been denied too long of what is lawfully and rightfully ours. So as we reinstate our country, we know we have the responsibility of educating not only the people here in Hawaii, but to educate the world and to educate those in America. And this is what our reinstatement is all about. We also realize that by receiving lease agreement rental fees, we can also improve our own educational systems. We can provide for our own programs. Let me give you an idea of what the United States pay for one military base in Philippines. They pay $500 million a year. That's twice the amount of the federal monies that are given to us in Hawaiian programs. We see ourselves as receiving fair compensation and providing for the citizens of our country. So we know that as a nation, it'll become our responsibility now to provide for our citizens. And we foresee that happening in the very near future. As the 50th state, it's been very difficult to survive economically here. We're not able to drive our vehicles to an adjoining state to make business occur. Okay? And what happens when there's a fall in the economy in America? We're the last to recover. Why? We suffer dramatically. But yet, they make laws where we can't benefit with foreign trade. Because according to the United States laws, they're going to keep trade under what they consider their jurisdiction and their laws that they've passed. In turn, making it very difficult here in Hawaii to do business with other countries. When you look into our future, what we see, a nation offering its seaports so that we can have foreign exchange and foreign trade. We can provide this to other countries and certainly provide the opportunity for the people that live here in Hawaii to increase their ability to make their businesses flourish make our economy flourish, and our overall lifestyle. So we see ourselves in the future of providing opportunities for other countries to do business here, right here in Hawaii. The whole part about reinstating the Hawaiian nation, one, again, let me reiterate, that it provides for correcting an injustice that has been here for 108 years. Number two, it also provides for a nation to collect what is lawfully theirs and to receive fair compensation from them. Number three, we foresee that we probably be able to provide a better living condition here in Hawaii. I know there are questions in many people's minds. Well, Henry, I'm a U.S. citizen. How is this going to benefit me? I think what you need to understand is it goes a lot deeper than just being a U.S. citizen. You're a U.S. citizen mandated by laws under your government that has opened up this opportunity for our nation. Listen, our nation that was overthrown was a very fair government. You're talking about women had the rights to hold office. This was before suffrage even took place in America. We had a democratic system. You had to vote for your representatives. You know, everybody, they begin to think that, oh, we just had a monarchy. You know, we had a king. Actually, we had a constitutional monarchy. And our governmental laws, if you were to go and read them, was very fair. We also included other races in our country. These are people that visited our shores and wanted to become a citizen of our country. Once they could comply to whatever rules of immigration was laid down, and they applied for naturalization into the country, and they were accepted, they became a citizen of our nation. Like any other nation throughout the world, our government provided for that. We currently are now taking on citizens in our nation that there has been over 300 expatriation applications, naturalization. What that means is we have U.S. citizens wanting to be a citizen of our nation. So it works both ways. But the bottom line to why we have reinstated our nation, that is, we believe that the right belongs to us and that we will now move forward to manifest that right. Again, I'd like to thank all of you for coming. Okay? I'd like to extend my mahalo to all of those who are responsible for putting this entire convention together. Much mahalo, and we look forward to working and seeing you in the very near future.